You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
News, views, security stories, technology, and all sorts of other related chit-chat that catches our attention. Welcome to the Essential Apple Podcast. Hello, listeners. Welcome to this week's episode. This week we are in WWDC Limbo, and that is because I am recording this show with Suffolk Pete on the day before WWDC. But, of course, it's highly likely that this show will not actually go out until after WWDC. So, we're not going to talk too much about WWDC because we might look stupid. But not that there's anything new in that, I'll be honest. Never mind. I am joined by Suffolk Pete. Hello, Pete.
Hello. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. And you, I believe, are drowning your sorrows with a fine pint of ale. Is that not so?
I am indeed. Yes, I am indeed. As some of you know, I'm a Spurs fan, and a small football game took place last night in Madrid.
And your boys didn't win?
No, essentially. So, and that's where I'd like to leave it.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll draw a veil over the whole sorry affair. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, tomorrow is WWDC. So I suppose we're going to have to talk about it a bit, Pete.
Yeah. And of course, on the flip side of what you said, you don't want to make yourself look silly. Of course, we could look like sages.
Oh, well, we could,
by
of course.
Actually predicting what's come out.
Yes, if we're right, yes, we will look incredibly clever. Okay. Well, of course, I suppose the Mac Pro, the fabled Mac Pro. In fact, some people are saying that the fact that there is a unicorn on one of the invitations is in fact a reference to the Mac Pro. Very amusing, of course. I think I'm going to lay my bingo cards on the table and say I would be very surprised if Apple don't at the very least talk about it. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to tell us something. I mean, they told us it would be 2019. We're now effectively halfway through 2019. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to tell us, about the Mac Pro.
Let's face it, their recent slew of updates on the Mac line and the MacBook line make the old 2013 Mac Pro look a little bit dated.
That's being generous, Pete.
Yes,
that's being very generous indeed.
It's starting to look quite slow, even compared to my 2017 iMac.
That's right. So we've been promised something modular. Exactly what Apple mean by modular, nobody knows. We've postulated on this show before the idea of a sort of stereo stacking system where, with Mac Mini type boxes that stack on top of each other.
Nice.
Lots of people, of course, deep down, I think a lot of pros would be quite happy with a return to the G5 cheese grater style. Just give us a big box with lots of stuff in it.
We can put our own bits and pieces in.
Indeed. I don't think we're going to get that, because if they were going to do that, I don't think it would have taken them 2 years to come up with it.
No. And everyone would have said, oh, you're going backwards.
Yeah, although actually that's not necessarily true, is it?
No.
Yeah, you're right. We have had a slew of MacBook updates. The MacBook Pro, in fact, has had 3 revisions in a year, which is
almost unheard of. It's almost like saying Apple saying, we got it wrong.
Yeah. Actually, I suspect part of that was the original MacBook Pro of this gen, as it were.
Yeah, the 2016.
Yeah, was limited, wasn't it, to was it 16 meg of RAM? And people were saying it didn't have the latest chips. I've got a feeling that was as we've said before, a matter of Intel not delivering in the window that Apple needed. So they brought out that MacBook Pro, and then they revised that MacBook Pro, and then they've upgraded it to the newer, the newest processors and up the RAM limit and so on.
Yeah, I think we've seen this before, haven't we? With Intel's roadmap is different to Apple's roadmap or release schedule.
I think the thing is, a lot of other manufacturers basically they wait on the chips and then they make the machines. Big PC box makers, people like Asus and Acer and Dell and Lenovo and those sort of people. I'm pretty sure they work around Intel, whereas Apple have their own cadence and
they do. Yes,
they're not. Thing. So I think it would be highly unlikely not to hear about the Mac Pro. Have you got any sort of prognostications on what you think it might be like?
Not really. Well, I'm kind of hoping they're really going to surprise us, and it's going to be one of those wow, we didn't think of that, or one of those wow, that's what you mean by modular.
Yes, I think this is this Mac Pro. I've linked a piece here actually from The Verge, which is the new Mac Pro is Apple's chance to make a PC. I think they overstate their case in that piece, but it's worth a read. And I did agree with a lot of it, and they are very much saying this Mac Pro has to be pretty bloody spectacular.
Yes, because let's face it, the recent releases of the Mac Mini, the iMac, and the MacBook Pro. Their Geekbench scores are really fast, like over 3,000. And the original and the current Mac Pro, the 2013, is in the 15,000 range, something like that. It was, or maybe it's 100. But I mean, essentially, the latest iMacs will be twice as fast as a Mac Pro.
It's just not tenable, is it? It's not. So it's going to have to be a beast of a machine. People will whine about the price of it, of course. But if you want ultimate power, I think it's going to probably need to be able to handle maybe as much as 512 gig of RAM, and I think it's going to have the ability to have some pretty serious graphics cards. A lot of people, of course, are saying that Apple need to stop tying themselves to one graphics card. At the minute, all their stuff is AMD. But some apps, of course, are pitched heavily on NVIDIA. Adobe, I think, are pretty heavily invested in the NVIDIA cards. So we shall see. I'm hoping for something pretty special. I mean, not something I'd ever be buying, I'm sure, but
no, because I'm sure we'll have some like the iMac Pro, which is a fantastic has a fantastic price tag as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like Formula One, isn't it? To some extent, none of us are going to ever drive a Formula One racing car, but big manufacturers still pour money into Formula One because it's prestige. And I think Apple really do need to win back the pro market.
Yeah,
they might be a very small market proportionately, but I think they're a very vocal and important market. And if you let it go, you just become another mid-range manufacturer.
Yeah, that's right. So they need this, and I'm just looking at the Geekbench scores just to put it into perspective. So the iMac Pro from late 2017 will get you around about 48,000 on Geekbench, and the latest releases of the Mac Mini and the iMac will put you around about 24,000 and 33,000 for the iMac, and the fastest Mac Pro from 2013, which is a 12-core 2.7 gigahertz, is 27,000. So
yeah, it's not a very pro machine by modern standards.
No, and it's not. And the fact that you can buy an iMac Pro and it's got 18 cores. The Mac Pro is really going to have to go some.
Yeah, I believe so. So we're hoping for that. Then we're hoping for that. Obviously, of course, they're going to talk about iOS 13 and Mac OS 10.15. Not sure what's going. I have to say, I'm not really all that jazzed about the yearly Mac OS updates.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I found myself thinking earlier today that I quite liked it when it came out every 18 months, the new OS, and you had to pay £30 for it.
Well, it used to basically come out whenever it came out. Sometimes it would be a long time. I seem to remember Tiger 10.4 being around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Before Leopard came out, and then Leopard wasn't out that long, and then it was Snow Leopard, and then I feel like Snow Leopard was around for a long time.
Yeah, because you had to have Snow Leopard to have the App Store, and everything was made. We used that as a baseline, didn't we?
Yes.
Leopard.
Snow Leopard was the kind of beginning of the new era, if you like, because it was, Snow Leopard and up is the sort of second era of OS 10, if you like. That's kind of how I view it, anyway.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I think this might be a bit controversial, and a lot of people might throw their hands up in horror, but I actually think Microsoft have got it right with Windows now. Into that they've done away with this sort of huge monolithic app OS updates, and they now just roll out updates every a bunch of updates every 3 or 4 months. It's like a rolling release. It's just Windows 10 and that's it, and it has a build number, and that's I mean, with iOS, whether we like it or not, I think Apple have tied themselves to a yearly release because of the whole iPhone carnival. As it
carnival,
were.
Yes, that's a good word for it. Yes.
when the new iPhones are released, which are now well established to be a September yearly event.
Yeah.
Everybody expects there to be a new OS to go with them, and I don't think Apple could stop doing that. I just think it would probably be a PR disaster. But the Mac itself is, it's not that sort of market, is it?
No.
You buy a Mac because you want a Mac. I don't think we need these yearly trumpeted, here's a complete new OS. I think sometimes they fix one bunch of things and introduce another load, because I don't know, 9 months to rework the OS every year is that's a tough deadline. I think you're just setting yourself up to get tripped up.
And I'm not sure it's even necessary.
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think the Mac OS could be. I think they should just drop it and they should just call it Mac OS, and then like Windows 10 or Mac OS 10 if they must, and then just roll out updates as they're ready.
And on Tuesday you will be seen as some sort of soothsayer after Uncle Tim announces that.
Well, if that's true, I will most likely eat my hat. But there we go. Of course, it's rumoured pretty strongly now. Quite a lot of evidence has come to the fore that iTunes is likely to be taken round the back of the barn and shot.
Yes, it served its purpose,
and be replaced with a bunch of new new applications. Whether that will be good or bad is yet to be seen, of course. iTunes is a strange thing because it started off as music, and then it became something else. Then it became a hub. Then it became like a management tool. Then they shifted most of that away from iTunes. I must admit, I do my best not to open iTunes. In fact, if it accidentally starts opening, I'm usually on there force quitting it before it loads.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm still an enthusiastic user of iTunes.
Well, I don't play music from my Mac very much. I don't use the music app on on my phone. I have a different player. I have a studio player.
Right.
I don't subscribe to Apple Music. I'll be honest. What times I do have to short periods to listen to a bit of music is often in my car, and I'll be honest, I usually listen to either classic rock radio or Absolute 80s.
Oh, right, yeah.
Absolute Rock, I think it's called, which is a classic rock station, and Absolute 80s. So will that help? I don't know. I mean, I think it's podcasting definitely should have its own piece. I don't think it will hurt to have a music app like on iOS. And we shall see, I guess, what happens with that. And of course, there was a lot of rumours about that, wasn't there, Pete? That these iTunes was going to be broken up and into marzipanified.
Yes, marzipanified. Yeah.
But apparently, the word amongst the cognoscenti is that is not what is happening. They will be actual Mac apps. So we shall see.
We shall see. I love sitting in front of my iTunes library and cataloguing things and getting the all the artwork together. In fact, I got quite disappointed when Apple started supplying the artwork because but there's still some tracks you can't find artwork for, so I go and do that myself, and then I add lyrics to my favourite ones, and it's like music for geeks, I guess.
Yeah, well, I would hope, even though I'm not a big user, I would hope that if they do a music app, that the music app it would go back to iTunes' roots and be like the original iTunes, where iTunes was basically, let's face it, a database for your music.
That's right. Yes.
And that they return to that and split off. Podcasts they already split off podcasts, I think, didn't they? But I don't use the Apple podcast app. I'm an Overcast man myself.
Overcast, okay, yeah.
But then of course we're almost guaranteed, I would say. This is if you were a betting man, you'd say it was probably an odds-on favourite. We're going to hear about codename Marzipan.
Yeah. Which makes sense. We need, I guess, down the line, we're going to have one OS, and it will run on your iPad, your iPhone, and your Mac.
Well, Apple keeps saying no, don't they? They keep saying that's not going to happen, but I just think I think it's almost inevitable in the end. I personally think that, yes, that is going to happen. Also, I think part of the whole Marzipan thing at the minute is just to try and draw more people to the Mac. Developers.
Yes.
Developers. There's, so many iOS developers. My biggest fear, I think the thing that a lot of people are worried about is that these Marzipan apps will become just like a slew of widgets, poorly ported across from iOS.
We don't want that.
We don't want that at all, because that would just that would be bad. I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. But again, we only time will tell. Developers are an amazing lot, and they do things that Apple and the rest of us probably never envisaged. They just let things go and see what happens. And I've got a link for that one as well. Apple Marzipan will bring the iPhone apps to your Mac. Everything you should know from CNET, that is. That's it. So that's in the show notes if anybody wants to read that. Well, we'll move on from that now, I think. That's enough about that. I saw this one. This one caught my eye. An original Apple One built into a briefcase sold for nearly $500,000 on TechCrunch. Well, of course,
it was hand built by Steve Wozniak.
Oh, was it indeed? I didn't read that bit. I mean, Apple Ones always fetch ludicrous amounts of money.
Yes.
There we go. It's £371,260 at Christie's. Inside a leather briefcase, complete with a built-in keyboard. Why is it in a briefcase? Because the Apple One did not come with a case. You got a board and you had to build it yourself. I remember at school when I was in the sixth form and the Apple One had just been launched, a friend of mine very much wanted to get one. I don't know if he ever did, because I think they were about £2,000 at the time.
Yeah.
But there we go. So yes, that one's interesting. I didn't realise that one was built by Steve Wozniak though. But
yeah, and the picture that accompanies it shows it with a tiny little portable monitor and a cassette player, of course. Yeah, because we all needed cassette players back then, didn't we, to play? I mean, you tell the young folks of today that, and they won't believe you.
Indeed.
I can barely believe it myself that we used to sit there playing cassettes full of code into our computers, and then after at the end it used to say bad read or something, and you had to start again.
Yeah. Oh dear, yes, we remember that. And what else has it got? It looks like that's possibly a modem, and is that some sort of little printer? I'm not sure.
There's only about 68 of these known still to be in existence.
Yeah. Right. This specific Apple one was owned by Rick Conti, who bought it to learn how to program in BASIC. He donated it to the Maine Personal Computer Museum in 2009, after which it was sold to a series of private owners.
Right.
Original manuals, magazines, assortment of compatible hardware, a dot matrix printer, rare photocopies of some of the Apple founding paperwork, and more. Well, £500,000 or $500,000 nearly is a lot to pay to say you've owned one, but maybe in a weird way you could see the birth of the Power Book in that one. Huh?
Yeah. It looks like the keyboard on there wouldn't have any of the butterfly keyboard problems.
No, I think I think there's probably a lot of travel in that. It's probably
there is.
It's probably even a clickety clackety mechanical sprung switch keyboard.
It probably is.
Yeah. Well, of course, the other thing that happened this week, Pete, Apple released a new iPod Touch.
Yeah, and it's one of those products that, when I hear that, I think, iPod Touch, does anyone still use those? But clearly they do.
Well, we have to assume that they sell enough to be worth, updating it. This one's moved up to the A10 Fusion, which I think comes from the iPhone 7, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think so.
Or it's the same chip that's in the cheapest iPad.
Right.
And it comes in, I think, if I recall, 32 gig, 128 gig, and 256 gig. But the prices are basically £200, £300, and £400. Bit steep.
But, personally, I'd buy an iPhone. But
well, my thought was that if you're going to go for the mid one, because 32 gig seems a bit stingy. I think they should have done a 64 as a starter. I think, especially at sort of £200. But if you're going to go for the middle one, you're paying nearly as much as an iPad, the basic iPad. I don't know. It just, I guess they must know who's going to buy these things and what configs sell. It just seemed a little pricey to me, going up against the cheapest iPad. There we are. This next one is Apple are expected to remove the 3D touch from all the 2019 iPhones in favour of haptic touch. Now I've got the 10R, iPhone 10R, which doesn't have 3D touch. That has haptic touch in it. My view on that is, I think I can see exactly why they're doing that. Cool and nerdy and all the other things that 3D touch was or is. I suspect it's complicated. I suspect it's expensive. I suspect the hardware, required to do it is expensive, and it never really became a thing.
No, that's right. I would imagine most iPhone users don't even know what we're talking about.
There are people who absolutely love it, and there are people who, like me, who barely used it. I had 3D touch on my, my iPhone 6, 7. I can't remember. Anyway, I had. I forget when it came.
You forgot.
Yeah, I had Yeah, it was the 7, I think. I had the 3D touch on that and barely used it. The haptic touch does basically the same thing. So I would say that this is probably a market research, feedback led and cost driven change. I suspect that technology, is what went into the iPad Pros, so it wasn't wasted. I just think it's probably overkill in your phone. I mean, this is only rumoured, of course.
But... No, I think it's and also I think this may be tied into the fact that we may be going back to the biometric opening your phone with a fingerprint, if other rumours are to be
from what I've
believed.
What I've what I've read about that is that the in-screen fingerprint sensor, if such a thing comes to pass, will not be replacing Face ID. It will be added as a.
That's right. Yeah.
As a secondary, authentication.
I think from what I read, it was described as the holy grail of biometric ID was Face ID with a fingerprint,
right?
And that means that essentially it's as secure as it can be, because
I'd have thought,
you won't just be able to show the phone to somebody's face to unlock it. You will need their warm fingerprint as well.
Talking about the iTunes, and this has been put forward. This was on Mac Rumors, this piece, but it's on several sites. Apple have wiped the iTunes pages on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
They have basically apparently taken all the posts, which are about 10 years worth apparently, and moved them to the Apple TV page.
Oh, they've actually. Oh, I see. I didn't realise that. I just read the headline and thought that just shows it's going away, but they've actually just moved them.
So I'm not sure what that means, but I guess that pretty much means iTunes is even if iTunes as maybe whether it's broken up or whatever they do, I suspect it's getting renamed if nothing else.
Yeah. No, I think that's.
I think the whole this, that, and the other is. Apple have very much started dropping that, haven't they? I mean, the iPhone and the iPad, I think, they're never going to change those, but, they went from iTunes to Apple Music. We've got the Apple Watch. They're going very much for Apple instead, I think, these days.
They are, aren't they? Even though some people online, I'd notice, still call the Apple Watch the iWatch.
Yeah. But that should be the iTV, surely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then we run into problems over here in the UK.
Well, that's exactly why when
it's called ITV.
when people were originally saying, "Oh, it's going to be called the ITV," and when it came out as the Apple TV, a lot of people said, "Well, of course they couldn't use ITV because yes, it's a big TV corporation in the UK." So there we go. And to go along with this, the other thing that's happened is they have increased the cellular download limit for your iPhone from 150 megabytes to 200 megabytes.
Yeah. Well, moving with the times, I guess.
I think some people have read stuff into that. Is that to help possibly with Apple Arcade or News Plus? But I suspect it is in part simply moving with the times because we all know, over time software gets bigger.
Yeah.
And of course, as well as that, more and more people have more and more bandwidth. I don't think there are that many people who are so constrained on their mobile data plan that they would, really be that worried about 50. I mean, didn't it start off at something like 64 megabytes?
Did it?
I can't remember, but it's been growing. It's been growing over time. There we are.
I must admit, I'm still a bit old school. I still tend to do my updates when I'm at home, especially if I know it's a big update. Like I've got, and don't laugh at this, I've still got a dedicated sat nav app on my iPhone, and its last update was 676 megabytes. So I waited until I was at home before I pulled that one down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a sat nav app actually. I have NavMe, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm.
It's had several names, but yeah, I have a sat nav app. Not because I dislike Apple Maps per se, but
actually, it looks like that's what my one's called, NavMe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I must admit, I never use it.
Well, I do use it. Not so much now because my new car has sat nav, built in along with the CarPlay and all the other lovely shiny shenanigans.
Okay.
Well, actually, we're straying off the point a bit here, but I have to say I barely use the CarPlay. I find it somewhat irritating, to be honest. And my old car, they've put lots of controls on the iPad-esque screen in the console.
Yeah.
Which actually, when you're driving, is a lot less helpful than being able to adjust the temperature of the aircon by twiddling a knob.
Yeah.
I used to just reach over to my right-hand side and turn the dial a little bit up or down. Now you have to tap on it and go to a screen, and it's not.
Yeah, and look at it. Yeah.
Much as I love my new car, I do not think that is actually a step forward. Having sat nav that can display on the dash next to your speedo and whatnot is nice, but the actual CarPlay type thing is less than ideal. Well, the good thing I have got, of course, is I've got DAB radio, which is how come I can listen to absolute 80s and whatnot. That's quite nice. But
in fact, I'm not sure how manufacturers still get away with selling cars without DAB. To be honest, I was an early DAB adopter, and I've had DAB in my car since 2004. But I've mostly, for the first 10 years, I had to plug in adapters and the like. But my last two cars have had DAB built in. But you can still buy cars without DAB.
Yeah, well, I mean, my last car didn't have DAB, and that wasn't that old a car. There we are.
And the government keeps changing its mind about when they're going to get rid of FM
and AM.
And AM, yeah.
Will they ever actually do such a thing?
No, I think they've got a couple of other things on their plate at the moment.
They might have one or two things to occupy their minds. Yeah.
I think that's on the back burner.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you could be right. There we go. Well, shall we tech stories? Not a lot of tech stories this week. Huawei's CEO said China should not punish Apple. And there was quite a lot of chatter about this. I personally, my view, purely my personal view, is a lot of articles have been pitching it as if Huawei and Apple are in some way, enemies. And I don't think that's true at all.
No.
I don't think. I mean, the chairman of Huawei is in fact himself a huge Apple fan, apparently. He also, I think, is quite aware that maybe in China Huawei might be, rivals to Apple, but I think they're much more, competing with people like Xiaomi and Samsung and possibly Sony because they're in the Android sphere. So
yeah, that's right.
I don't think they really feel that they're, directly. They're certainly not enemies in any way, shape, or form. And the other thing is, of course, the whole blacklisting thing, as we were talking about last week. That's incredibly complicated. The high-tech industry is incestuous, really.
Yeah. You can't say Huawei that one company is a Chinese company or a UK or US or company because they all they all interlink, and
they're all interlinked, don't they?
They rely on each other.
Huawei make laptops, and so they need, they buy Windows from obviously from Microsoft. They use Qualcomm modems, the same as pretty much everybody else. They have, they make a lot of their own bits, but they don't, by any shake of the imagination, make all their own stuff. So I think, the chair of Huawei is not an idiot, quite obviously, and I'm sure he's quite aware that any sort of extended trade war is just going to damage the whole industry.
Quite.
It would be a massive, it would be a massive hammer blow to the whole infrastructure that powers Samsung, Apple, Huawei, all of them. It'd be a massive blow. And probably far beyond high tech. You start moving out into cars and all sorts of things, because everything's powered by silicon these days.
Yeah, that's right. And as you say, it's part of a bigger picture. And if the US, if Donald Trump is starting trade wars with people and going for a protectionist type environment where he builds walls around the country, then it's a two-way street that gets blocked, not just.
Yeah, exactly. There we are. Right. Well, talking about laptops, I'm going to jump forward a little bit here. Obviously, it was Computex 2019 this week. For those who are into, following what other computer companies and Apple might be doing. And I've got a link here. Laptops are getting weird and wonderful again. And this is from The Verge. And there were some very interesting things at Computex, I have to say. The one that caught my eye, and there's a lot of the usual stuff. There's 5G laptops and all sorts of things like that. I think it was HP had one, which was a wooden laptop, which sounds amusing because it makes you think, is it? Is it clockwork? Is it like, is it like a steampunk thing with, but no, it's a wooden case, which I guess, as we were saying before the show, it in some ways that seems green, and I suppose there's no reason the case shouldn't be made out of wood if that's what you like. Mm-hmm. On the green sort of eco side, I'm not sure how planet friendly, using tropical hardwood, which I'm assuming is what they're using, because you're not going to make it out of Scots pine, are you?
No, they've made it out. Well, there's various finishes, but there's natural walnut, white birch, natural silver, and pale birch.
All right. So
it looks nice, but
so again, are they? I didn't really dig into it too deeply. Are they machined out of wood, or are they just veneered?
I think it's a laminate. Yeah, it looks like it's a laminate over. Right. Really, if you want a green laptop, then just keep using your existing one until it stops working.
Until it finally gives up the ghost. Yeah, the one
That's right.
The one that intrigued me the most is actually a concept piece. It's not an actual real item as yet, and it's Intel's twin honeycomb glacier concept.
Yeah. I think you need to see the pictures.
You need to see the pictures. So there are links. If you imagine opening your laptop, instead of the keyboard being near the hinge, like all modern laptops are, with the palm rest in front, they've returned in this to the keyboard in the front club, which is a real thing, by the way. There is a whole bunch of people out there who believe that the keyboard should actually be at the front, like they were in some of the earliest laptops.
I don't know why I'm surprised at that.
Well, I think now that laptops are much thinner than the earlier ones, I can see how that would work, because let's face it, your keyboard on your desk does not have palm rests in front of it, which you have to put your hands on.
True.
Part of the reason that putting your palms on the laptop with the keyboard towards the hinge, I think, became a thing is if you actually have your laptop on your lap, it helps stop the damn thing tipping over.
Yeah.
On the desk, I'm not necessarily 100% convinced that actually is necessary. It's become the de facto way we make them, but there are people who say the keyboard should actually move back to the front. The problem with that, of course, is you can't have your mighty trackpad.
No.
Anyway, so imagine you've opened your laptop and where your palm rests are is now the keyboard, and the space where your keyboard is a screen. And then you have your traditional laptop screen in the lid. And there is a second hinge between the keyboard and the lower screen, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, that describes it nicely.
Yeah, and then the lower screen can be angled upwards, thus lifting your main screen up, which ergonomically is not a bad thing, we must say.
Yes.
And then there is a large, screen, touch screen, of course, which can be used to do any number of various things. They're on here, they've got it showing you can have other apps in there. You can have various things, calculators and widgets and whatnot. My immediate thought was on a laptop, in my field, you could have your work on the top screen and all the damn palettes on the lower screen.
Yeah, good idea.
Which would be nice. It's a concept. Actually, as concepts go, I really rather like it.
Yeah, I do as well. Is this in the concept? Is this second smaller screen, is that touch sensitive?
Yes, I believe it's a touch screen. Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
So it's like Apple's Touch Bar, but as somebody described it, I think it was on the Verge cast, but much bigger and actually useful.
Yes.
And they also had another concept called the Twin Rivers. I'm not sure what that one was. There was a lot of stuff. It's actually quite nice to see some new ideas.
It is, yes.
I mean, whether they will catch on, whether they will take. I mean, the other one, was it last year? They had one where there were two screens which slid out from the laptop lid. Last year there was one where you had your main screen, and then there were two smaller screens, effectively half the size of the main screen, which slid out of the lid, so that you had then a three-pane screen.
Gotcha.
A lot of people were laughing at that, but yet again, we know people like more screen. We've always, you can never have too much screen, it would seem. So anyway, that's nice to see. I just think because there are reasons sometimes why a format becomes the standard and how everything is done. But every so often, I think as technology changes, somebody will suddenly go, well, hang on, why are we doing it like we don't have to do that anymore?
That's right. Yeah. Now, I like some of the concepts that are on this The Verge article. And just because we've done something one way for the last 30 odd years doesn't mean we have to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
As you say, we can't get enough screen real estate.
There's another one.
See if any of them catch on.
There's another one, the Asus ZenBook Pro Duo foreshadows a multi-screen future. That's a video. So there we go. Some interesting ideas. Whether they will catch on, who can say? I actually liked the idea of that honeycomb thing. I like that a lot.
It looks good.
One of the again, I think it was on the Verge cast when they were talking about it. One of the guys said, "Well, actually, if you ever try to use your laptop on an aircraft, you can never actually get the screen tipped back because it bangs up against the seat in front.
Yeah.
So with this, you would because the screen is that much closer to you. If you lift it up vertically, your laptop, your screen is only a keyboard depth. It's effectively halfway down the laptop body. There we go.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And will Apple be rolling that out at WWDC? Probably not.
Probably not. Although,
if they do, you heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. I do have to say though, it's a lot better than some of the weird concepts you see that you look at and you just think that'll never catch on. I could actually see that being, becoming a thing.
Actually useful.
There we are. And what else have we got? Apparently Facebook's engagement is sinking with no end in sight, according to Mashable. Apparently over the last few years, the average user's engagement per day or something or per week or whatever has gone down by like 3 minutes or something.
The average time spent by users in the US, they're losing ground to Instagram and Snapchat.
well, I don't suppose they care that much about Instagram. They own
no, quite.
They own Instagram, but yes, I suppose it is. I'm sure from Facebook's point of view, that is a troubling statistic that their engagement is dropping, because you cannot stay king of the hill if people start to lose interest.
Yeah, quite. And with, I think various people have predicted that Facebook's time is limited because there are other social networks that the young people are using rather than Facebook, and Facebook is the thing that their parents use, so obviously they don't want to use it.
That is, we've talked about that before. Facebook is no longer cool with the up and coming generation. It's probably going to end up being the old folks social network.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. And that's pretty much it, really, Pete.
It's been a bit of a quiet week, but we will see what WWDC brings tomorrow.
Yes, so when we come back next week, we will know all about what Apple have had to say. I will skim over the security and privacy, or what we're likely to rename Who Did What Now. Older versions of Windows apparently have a critical vulnerability and should be updated as soon as possible.
Really? Is that even news? I mean,
telling
us something we don't know?
Well, I think it's news in the fact that this is apparently a critical vulnerability. Right. And Microsoft are saying if you're, on older builds, you need to update, and you need to do it now.
Right.
1Password for the Mac has been updated with easier and smarter drag and drop password functionality. So all of you 1Password users, there's a new update for you.
Mm-hmm.
Flipboard, which is a news aggregator app, I believe. Their database has been hacked, exposing users' account information, including lots of things that you probably don't want people to know, like possibly your password and your login information and various other things. And what else? That's not good. The CTO of Wickr has said that Slack, WhatsApp, Snapchat, and the UK government's Ghost protocol are all security risks. To some extent, well, of course he does, because he wants you to buy into Wickr, which is a sort of more secure Slack aimed at enterprises, by the way.
Right.
It's not really aimed at average users.
No.
There we go. What a surprise. It's an interesting read, and most of what he says is true, I have to say. He basically says that Wickr has end-to-end encryption, so that even they don't know what what goes through the application. Where he says that's not true of the others. And the Ghost protocol. The Ghost protocol, I've got another story on that from Digital Trends. Tech companies and security experts pan the UK's encryption backdoor proposal, which is known as Ghost protocol. And this is a pretty scary and unpleasant suggestion by our government. Thank you very much. You know nothing, Jon Snow. The idea is that they want the ability for an end-to-end encrypted conversation to be able to have another end added, i.e. for the lawful people to access it by tapping into it and receiving the same messages as and of course the tech companies have said if you do that, then you've basically broken the whole thing. And so that's something that, if you're in the UK and you don't like that idea, you should probably be writing to your MP, who won't pay any attention because they've got too many other things to worry about. How can they manage to make themselves leader of whatever party it is?
And there's one last thing I wouldn't mind mentioning under the worth a chirp. It's the AnyWatt USB-C MagSafe adapter.
Yes, that is
which ties in nicely with keeping your laptop going for as long as possible, rather than buying a wooden one.
Very much, yeah.
$22. It's a little adapter that will plug into USB-C, and then you can plug in your old MacBook MagSafe 1 and 2 chargers.
Yes, it's I don't have any USB-C powered devices, but I do have quite a lot of old MagSafe chargers laying around.
Yeah.
And annoyingly, my current laptop is MagSafe 2, and all my old ones are MagSafe 1. So I need to get the AnyWatt USB-C MagSafe adapter, which apparently, because it's USB-C, can also be used to charge any USB-C device.
Hey.
So you can effectively repurpose your old Apple MagSafe adapters.
Yeah.
And of course add MagSafe to your USB-C device.
Yeah. Yeah. And alternately, you can buy a wooden laptop.
Yeah. My only thought about that was it's not the neatest looking thing, is it? It's a bit of you've got a cable, a short cable with a box that you then plug it into.
A small box, yeah.
It would have been nicer if it was more like a tip, I would have thought, that you put into your USB-C. But there you go. It's still a thing, and if I had any USB-C devices, I might well be buying one. There we are.
Yeah, because at $22, quite reasonably priced.
It is. Yes, that's very reasonably priced. Some of those things are, often you think how much tech goes into converting one power tip to another. Is it really worth $45 or $50? There we are. The other worth a chirp is Alfred 4 brings dark mode, rich text expansion, and more to the powerful Mac OS productivity app. So again, Alfred users are getting an update, which is nice. Are you a user of Alfred?
No,
nor am I. I have looked at it. It doesn't do anything for me, but people who use it are, a bit like Quicksilver. People who use that are very
text expander, something like that.
Yeah, those kind of things. I think they either really work for you or they just don't. And that doesn't make them good or bad. If they work for you, brilliant, and if they don't, then don't use it. Simple as that, really. What else? I think there's one last thing I want to do, just a snippet. This is an Indian newspaper report, which says the IISC team confirmed breakthrough in superconductivity at room temperature. I think you might have to take some of it with a pinch of salt. It's not really 100% confirmed, but
right. Okay. So it's not a peer reviewed.
Well, it is. They're saying it, and they are then talking about sending out samples or instructions for how to create the samples for other. So they're not saying we've done this and you have to believe us. They are apparently preparing to share it with other teams because they believe that it's a breakthrough. And of course, as we were talking, I was talking to John Chidgey, we were talking about superconductivity. And as he said, room temperature, or at least sort of no cooler than you could produce with reasonable refrigeration. So sort of minus 20 degrees C or the like is the holy grail.
It is, isn't it?
So might be one to keep an eye on. The link is in there, and it's from a newspaper, I believe, called The Hindu, or a news site. Again, some of these things turn out not to be what they promise, but I thought it was worth just mentioning in passing. And I think that's probably about it, Pete.
Yeah.
I think that really.
Yeah. Looks like we're done.
Yeah. I haven't got the link. I was going to just say also a snippet. I read an article. I can't remember where it was, but I'll try and dig it up and put it in the just the snippets. Scientists prove that dark mode does not help you read or focus better. Thank you. Thank you.
Finally. Yeah.
Sorry. If you like dark mode, it's fine. But people spout all this pseudo-scientific guff about why it's better, and I've never been convinced by that. If you like the dark mode,
Same
fine.
here.
I don't like it. That's, give me platinum, grey and white all the time. But if you like the reversed out kind of look, good for you. But don't tell me it's because it helps you focus better. Right. And on that controversial note, I'll get hate mail now. We will. I guess we should just wrap up. So, Pete,
that's cool.
Anything you want to, tell the listeners?
No, just as they say on the Mac Geek app, don't get caught.
Jolly good. You are on the Twitter occasionally, very occasionally, aren't you? Talking occasionally about beer or football. And you are at Hermboy, and that's HERMBOY. And I am, of course, on the Twitter as at Serenak, and that's SERENAK. The show is at Essential Apple. All our stuff is on the essentialapple.com. Thank you to all the slackers in the Slack room who drum up stories for us. Thank you to all the people who support us. And we will be back next week, where no doubt it will be all about WWDC. See you then.
Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com, and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchots and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
Hello and good evening. This is Gaz for the My Mac podcast. And we know you have your pick of high-quality downloadable audio content, and we appreciate that you choose ours.
Quite right, Ode Bean. This is Guy, and we're here to say that the My Mac podcast is the right choice to make. Intelligent, cultured, and downloaded by only the finest and most educated people.
Indeed. In fact, we restrict our delightful missives to only those best suited... Guy, I can't go on with this. Who are we kidding? The My Mac podcast is probably one of the most accessible shows there is.
Gaz, we're trying to up our reputation here.
Oh, shut it. Listen, folks, tired of tech podcasts that talk over your head and go on too long, taking themselves so seriously, you'd think they were the ones making the product? Then you should listen to the mymac.com podcast. At least 3 good chuckles per segment.
If my math is right, that's about 10 laughs per show.
Right. Because 3 times 3 is 10. Sometimes I really wonder about you, Guy.
No need to wonder where to find the podcast. Just go to iTunes and search for My Mac. Subscribe and jump into the fun.
You know, we're part of the Stoplight Network, and there are a lot of important people there.
Well, we did say we hardly know anyone important. Though there was that time I was less than 30 feet away from the Woz, and I could have sworn we made eye contact.
Most likely, he was having stomach cramps.
Well, that would explain why he was doubled over at the time.
The mymac.com podcast. Enjoy it. Over a cuppa.
This has been the Essential Apple Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to you joining us again another time. Until then, goodbye.